Hey everybody, this is Blake here, and welcome to my review of Jurassic World. So, just so you know, I was counting down the seconds until this was released. Of all the many interesting looking films of 2015, from The Avengers 2 to Mad Max, I was anticipating Jurassic World the most. I love everything about the original Jurassic Park. It played a major role in my childhood and has withstood the test of time and still holds up today. It is one of the most exciting blockbusters of all time. Easily one of my personal favorites. And, you know, my love extends to pretty much everything Jurassic Park related. I own the novel, and I read that every once in a while. In fact, after watching this movie, I decided to revisit the novel, and I spent the majority of my night going through that again, far past my bedtime, and I am feeling the effects of that right now. And I downed Starbucks and a 5-hour energy drink, and I have yet to really feel those kicking in. So if I sound off throughout the duration of this video, that is why. I feel like I can make that my catchphrase, because I say those words quite often. I also love The Lost World, book and movie. Now, a lot of people really don't like the movie, and I understand why. There are some moments of really just bad character writing that can be outright infuriating. It is pretty dumb, but it also brought back, the excitement of Jurassic Park. I just love how the movies can be funny, scary, adventurous, awe-inspiring. There's just so many emotions that the viewer experiences while watching these films. And in the case of The Lost World, sometimes that is rage. But I personally enjoy it, even though I do think that it's inferior. I can't say that my love of Jurassic Park extends to Jurassic Park 3. I don't remember it being very bad. I just recall that it was incredibly mediocre. I saw it when it came out in theaters, and then maybe once when it came out on video, but I've never really felt the urge to return to Jurassic Park 3. Like, if I had a choice between watching that or The Lost World right now, even though it was just a few years ago that I last watched The Lost World, I'd probably choose that. That's how I feel with the majority of the Star Wars prequels as well. I don't remember them being bad as much as I just remember them being very, very average. And even though I haven't seen any of those films since they were released in theaters the first time, I'd much prefer watching the original, Star Wars Episode 4, even though I just watched that like 2 weeks ago. But I understand why some people prefer Jurassic Park 3, because Jurassic Park 3 doesn't have any moments where the stupidity digs its claws into your flesh, or I should say your brain. It's just kind of a harmless, fast-paced, short dinosaur movie, whereas I think the Nostalgia Critic actually explained that pretty well. The Lost World is much more ambitious, and therefore tends to fall flat on its face more. I prefer The Lost World because I just think Spielberg is a much more exciting director than Joe Johnston was at the time. Although, to Joe Johnston's credit, he has gotten better. So, those are just my feelings. So, when I first heard about Jurassic World, I was enthusiastic. Not just because it was the fourth Jurassic Park movie, but because it did have some really cool ideas. I loved the fact that they actually finally got a park up and running. There's just so many exciting possibilities there. I thought the idea of them creating a new dinosaur, which turns out to be sadistic and incredibly intelligent, that was also a real neat idea that could just breathe life into what is potentially a stale formula. Now, I remember when they first announced what this movie was going to be about. They were saying like the raptors would almost act like security for the park, and I thought that was really retarded. Now later on, it just turned out that that wasn't the case. That they were just using the raptors to hunt this new dinosaur, the Dominus Rex. I can't exactly remember the name. They should have just called it the Verizon Rex. That would have fit with all the product placement in this film. But that seemed kind of dumb, and I was wary of it. But at the same time, at least it was different. At least it was kind of creative, and that was what was interesting me the most about this project, is that it seemed very creative. And so I was quite dismayed when the reviews came in, and it just didn't seem like anybody was enthusiastic. The general consensus was that it was okay. Nothing amazing, but the majority of people who watched it had some fun with it. But I was just expecting so much more. But I then made the even bigger mistake of not really lowering my expectations. I thought I did. I said I was. But when it came down to it, I realized that I was expecting Jurassic World to be on par with the first film, or at least the second film, in my eyes. Once again, I acknowledge that a lot of people don't like the second film. But what I should have done was only compared it to the third. Sort of like if they made a new Jaws movie, all it has to do to be successful is be better than Jaws the Revenge, or Jaws 3 and 2 preferably. But if it's not, I think I could forgive it more. Whereas, if I was comparing Jaws 5 to the original Jaws, I'd probably be an idiot. Now, a remake, on the other hand, you can't really help that, so don't do that, studios. But, so I do believe that if I was disappointed in Jurassic World, a significant part of that is on me. God, this is going to be hard to talk about. When I was writing my review, and I'm proud of it as a whole, I came across as a lot more negative than I wanted to be, because I did enjoy myself. It's just that, once again, my hopes were so high that I think I felt more angry than I should have felt. And so I'm going to try to mellow out for this video and approach it from a different light, and that, yes, at the absolute least, Jurassic World is better than Jurassic Park 3. And I can understand why some people would think that it's better than Jurassic Park 2, because for all the problems I have with the script, there was nothing that stupid about it. There's nothing like, Nick Van Owen being a total asshole and freeing the dinosaurs and causing pretty much every death to occur in the movie, and yet he's never called out on it. We're supposed to totally root for this character while he's doing this. There's nothing quite like that. There's nothing quite as silly as a little girl doing gem kata on a velociraptor, even though there are certainly quite a few silly moments. But there's also nothing that really is going to stay with me in the long run outside of my disappointment. So over time, I'm probably not going to remember Jurassic World as fondly. But alright, so where should I begin? Well, the special effects are really good. Shocking. CGI is state-of-the-art stuff. The problem, though, is that it's all obviously CGI, and I often felt like, animatronics and like the various puppet work that they also used in the first 3 movies would have helped increase the tension, because I often didn't feel like the characters were interacting with dinosaurs. Instead, it just seemed like they were interacting with green screens, and I'm not really sure how you could fix that with CGI. But I think one of the biggest problems with the advancements in special effects is we can now show everything, so we no longer really have to build up to appearances. When you look at the original Jurassic Park, like, the T-Rex just doesn't appear on the screen. No, I mean, Spielberg takes us on a journey just to see the T-Rex. Its presence off screen is very powerful, so we're waiting eagerly for that moment. And then, at first we're seeing bits and pieces here and there, and then when it finally shows up, it's a magnificent sequence, and it's exciting. And even though I've seen the film many times, when I watched it on the big screen in theaters, it still gets to me. It is just a great moment. But there's just no patience for that anymore with modern day films, because there's a good chance that the reason why we don't see the T-Rex as much in the first film is because the limitations in special effects. They couldn't always do as much as they probably would have with the various robotics or CGI, which was very new back then. So they had to be really clever with how they showed it, and that required much more technique in the filmmaking aspect, and at least in terms of the cinematography and direction, and of course the special effects people. But here it's just all special effects people. There's no real need to build up to that appearance. It just, they could show it, and yeah, the new dinosaur looks awesome, but it just, because they show it too early and they play all its cards too early, I thought it kind of ran out of steam rather quickly. So like, they introduce these various aspects, that it's a sadist, that it's very intelligent, that it can camouflage itself, and a lot of cool stuff. But after the halfway point, it just becomes another dinosaur. You don't really see its intelligence too much. There are moments. It never camouflages itself again that I remember. And its sadism is underplayed because, for the most part, it's just trying to survive by that point. So that creativity sort of ran out fast. And I thought the director, he did a better job than Joe Johnston did. There are a few suspenseful moments. But as a whole, he just was showing off the visual effects. And the film feels so digital that I just never quite accepted these dinosaurs as real. Or I never even accepted this park as real. It always just kind of looked a bit too polished to me. This especially stood out when the T-Rex from the first film shows up. And it's like, it's not bad CGI or anything, but because it's fully CGI, it just doesn't look quite the same, nor does it look quite as good as the original T-Rex all the way back from 1993. But still, yeah, I will concede that there are some gorgeous visuals. There are a few moments where, yeah, the director did pull me in, and not necessarily to the point where he scared me, but there are some like, oh shit moments. I especially liked when the Indominus Rex, and once again, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I apologize, first escapes, and these two characters are hiding from it, and where that goes, I actually thought that was pretty nerve-wracking, and I wish there was more of that. Instead, it's just like, dinosaurs constantly chasing. There's not as much build up to these moments. I already feel like I'm losing track of what I want to say. In terms of the script, like, there are definitely some dumb moments. Like, I hate how, like, cell phones and radios never seem to work when they're required to work. So if, like, the kids stray from the beaten path, and then their aunt, the main actress, she's trying to contact them, but the cell phone isn't working. Shocking. When they realize that they've been outsmarted by the I-Rex, they're trying to tell them on the radio, but they're kind of breaking up, and it's like, really, guys, this is a bit far-fetched. You'd think that would be the first thing they'd want to make sure there are no flaws in. But and then there are other, like, I thought it was stupid when the chick outruns a T-Rex in her heels, and then what made that worse is that the director draws attention to the heels by having the camera pan down and look at her feet. That was stupid. But once again, nothing quite as stupid as some of the stuff we saw in Lost World. The tone, I felt, was really off in this movie. there are some funny moments, but at the same time, some of these funny moments really kind of took me out in the film in in more intense moments. Like Jurassic Park 3 was silly, but at least it was consistently campy. I never felt like I was supposed to take Jurassic Park 3 seriously, which I think was a mistake. And then even, all right, Jurassic Park 2 had its moments, but I'd still say The Lost World generally knew when to place its humor so that it didn't have a negative impact on the suspense or tension. But this one, like, you'll have this supposedly terrifying moment, followed by a almost hilarious sight gag or a out of place goofy one liner that will just remind me that I am watching a movie and there is no reason to invest in these characters or what is happening. Another issue: almost all the people who get killed are just extras designed to get killed. None of the deaths really had any weight, and I think that was what bothered me the most of everything in this film. It just didn't take a whole lot of risks with killing anybody. When you look at the original Jurassic Park, it had a smaller cast, but I felt like every member within that cast was important on some level, so when they died, it left an impact. For one, their deaths were usually intense and kind of scary, but I could remember their names, and I could remember how they all died. I could list that off right now if you want. Even The Lost World, like, I felt every death was important, and when somebody would die, even minor characters, like, people would comment on them afterwards. Dieter Stark, gets ripped apart by compies. He was in the movie like twice, and then they spend an entire scene afterwards looking for him. When AJ, I believe his name is, Tembo's friend, gets killed, you don't even see it. It's just implied that that is what happens. And then, yeah, you know, Roland is mourning to the point where he retires. You feel a sense of loss over these deaths, whereas in Jurassic World, it's like they'll have a quick reaction, but they never linger on it. So it's like, why should we care that this extra just got killed very gruesomely? And it bothered me even more because at one point, like, I could justify or I could explain this by saying, okay, well, everybody's in a hurry. There's just no time to mourn for these, you know, fallen coworkers. But they stop and spend like 5 minutes on a dinosaur dying, and it's supposed to be like this real dramatic, sad sequence. You have a tear falling down, you know, the girl's cheek. But it's like, God damn it! Why does this movie think that dinosaur lives are more important than human lives? So that bothered me. That bothered me quite a bit. And even when, like, there's one character who is prominent and sympathetic, and he gets killed, like, I felt there just should have been more fanfare to that death. It's not like I wanted to see this person die, but it's like the film took no interest in the fact that this person died, and, you know, it's practically forgotten almost immediately afterwards, except, you know, when the plot requires that they bring it up again. And then there's this other character who gets killed in this over-the-top, gruesome way, and it was admittedly kind of a cool death. You see parts of it in the previews. But it's like the kind of death where it makes you wonder if we were supposed to hate this person, and this person never did anything that bad to really warrant that kind of death. So it just seems unnecessarily cruel. And at least like with Eddie Carr's death in The Lost World, it was also very cruel, but I felt that it was more intense and terrifying. I didn't feel like the audience was supposed to pop and like be like, oh, that was fucking awesome. I'm sure a lot of people did, but here it feels like we were supposed to be, oh, that was fucking awesome, when it should have been more terrifying. And then like the characters who could die, like they're the question marks, sort of like how I think his name was Billy in Jurassic Park 3, where he was like the only person you thought might die but might not die. They never put any of these characters in danger. The only characters that were constantly in danger were the fodder, you know, the minor roles who were just introduced so they could die, or the kids, we know they're not going to bite it, or get bitten, I should say. And then the main couple, we know they're not going to die either. So it's like that just sort of derails the tension even more, because all the people who might get killed are safe in the control room, which we never feel is in any danger. So I know I'm ranting. I totally fucked up this video. I'm explaining everything Jurassic World does wrong. The characters are just very thinly written. There's nothing to Chris Pratt's character. He's just Chris Pratt. I really feel like this character was written as just sort of a blank, and then once he was cast, they decided to incorporate aspects of Chris Pratt's personality into him, and it's not even like a major part of his role. The part you see in the previews that they show off is when he's being kind of funny, and you think, okay, well, this is going to be a very comical character. After that sequence, he never made me laugh again, and I don't think he was trying to make me laugh. He was just reacting to the situation. There's just no personality there, even though I had no issue with his acting. I was concerned for the delivery of his lines, because the part that in the trailer that I thought I could not take seriously was when he's trying to be all serious, saying, depends on what kind of dinosaur they cooked up in there or whatever. But when that line came up, it was fine. I didn't mind it. The main chick, that's another sign. These characters, there's not any real depth to them. They're cliched, and whenever they have a character arc, it's a cliched character arc. But you could argue the same thing about the characters from Jurassic Park and The Lost World, except the difference is they just had chemistry together. So it was fun watching Ian Malcolm and Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, banter and so on. They had fun dialogue, and they were larger-than-life characters who were very memorable. Once again, I could remember all of these people's names. I can't remember anybody's names from The Lost World. But these characters, they aren't really larger-than-life. They don't have any memorable lines. There's no chemistry between anybody, which especially stands out when the love story comes out of nowhere. I shouldn't say it comes out of nowhere, but it's very shallow, and it's your typical conventional romance. But there's nothing to the main chick either. She's a stiff who needs to loosen up, and that's downplayed once again, just like how Chris Pratt's wild funny man is downplayed in the actual film. The kids, like, they introduce various aspects about them that never go anywhere. Like, the younger kid seems to be some sort of genius, but that never has any sort of impact on the plot. The older kid is like a total creeper in how he stares at women. I don't know what the hell they were going for there. I know he's a hormonal teen, but I was getting some serious rapist vibes from this kid. The bad guy, the extent of his personality is he's the bad guy. At least when you look at previous human antagonists, Nedry, there was more to him than him just being the bad guy. He was a jerk, he was a slob, but you also got the impression that he was genuinely screwed over and bitter over that. And he had a more dynamic personality that was sometimes funny and mean, but in a mean kind of way, or it could be outright nasty. Ludrow, I believe his name is, from The Lost World. He actually was charming and charismatic despite being the greedy corporate scumbag, and you do get the impression that he didn't want anybody to get killed. This guy, he's just a smug snake, even though I like the actor Vincent D'Onofrio. You see him watching, these flying, I don't remember the names, the flying dinosaurs, terrorizing the tourists, and he's laughing. He's like, it's just like, oh my god, he's a fucking cartoon. He's not a character. And then the finale, god, that went into some stupid ass territory. I can't even describe it without spoiling anything, but everything about the finale was supposed to make me mark out, and I just thought it was really, really dumb. There is a fight between the T-Rex and the Indominus Rex. A lot of people really hated the fight in Jurassic Park 3 where the Spinosaurus killed the T-Rex. I never minded it as much. It was at least a short but intense fight scene. Here, I think it's just because it's all CGI. It felt too cinematic, and then like the things that happened in the fight just made me kind of groan. Um, there is a sort of a funny take that to Jurassic Park 3 when you see I think a skeleton of the Spinosaurus, and then the T-Rex kind of crashes through it. But like there are a lot of nods, and I will say to its credit, it doesn't pretend like the Lost World or Jurassic Park 3 didn't exist. But I don't know. I just thought the finale was pretty stupid. But at the same time, the finale does represent one of the most redeeming aspects of Jurassic World. I didn't feel like the writers were being lazy. In fact, I do feel like that even though the script often relies on cliches and conventions, there was a certain enthusiasm injected into this storyline. Like when they were developing that finale, they were probably like little kids having a blast and writing all this stuff. I felt like I could see that just from watching. And that's the main difference between this and Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic Park 3, it didn't really feel like anybody cared, from the director to the actors to the writers. It just seemed like they wanted to cash in that paycheck and, make the movie for financial purposes. But, for the most part, it was very indifferently made. Jurassic World, for all of its weaknesses, I felt like the filmmakers were having fun. I felt like they were really trying to make an enjoyable movie. And to some extent, they succeeded. That's where I feel kind of guilty for bashing on this so much, because I did think Jurassic World was, at the absolute least, fast-paced. It doesn't take very long to get going, and once it does, it never stops. There's lots of dinosaur action. There's a few, like I said, interesting moments. It wasn't a creative movie as a whole. Like, outside of the central ideas, I felt like it played out in a very conventional, familiar, formulaic way. But still, the few ideas it had at least kinda were popping. They stood out to the general audience member. But it's still, like, I feel like my expectations were the biggest enemy here. Why was I expecting something as good as Jurassic Park or even Lost World when they are just exceptional films? I mean, Jurassic Park 3 should have kept me restrained. So I do feel like it is partially my fault that I failed to make a connection to this movie, but then it's also partially the film's fault for just not being that great of a movie. It's okay, and I think you should see it if this sounds interesting to you. If you like the ideas of just dinosaurs rampaging, it's not as good as Jurassic Park, and I don't even think it's as good as Jurassic Park 2. Just the kills needed more bite. Everything just felt so clean and digital. But it has its moments that actually I did find to be exciting, and it was almost always entertaining. That's, I think, the key word here is that it's entertaining, but nothing about it's going to stay with me for very long. And so that's all I have to say. If you want to read my written review, I shall provide a link in the description where I probably talk about certain things a lot more. I've also done written reviews of The Defender, a Dolph Lundgren movie, and Star Wars Episode 4. I finally got that up. Also check out my Jurassic Park 3D vlog if you want to hear more of my feelings towards the original film. I used to have a written review up, but since the purge of free webs, I can't, or I haven't reposted that, and I'd probably do like a full new written review when I do decide to repost that. That's all I have to say. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and I apologize for the length of this video, which I hope you enjoy. And I shall see you guys later.